The phone call that ripped my heart out lasted exactly 47 seconds. I know, because I sat there staring at the screen long after my son hung up, and the call timer was still glowing back at me. 47 seconds to throw away 32 years of a mother's love. Mom, I need you to stop calling me. My life here is different now. These people don't need to know about Memphis or any of that. If you love me, you'll let me go. My name is Ruth Carter. I'm 64 years old, and I spent 3 decades working as a housekeeper at the Peabody Hotel in downtown Memphis, scrubbing toilets and folding towels so my son Derek could have the life I never did. He became an architect in Chicago, married into a family that owned half the commercial real estate on Michigan Avenue, and somewhere between his first promotion and his wedding day, he decided that the woman who raised him was a stain on his new life that needed to be bleached out. What I didn't know yet was how far he'd gone to erase me. Not just ignoring my calls or skipping holidays. He told his wife, her family, his colleagues, every single person in his shiny new world, that his mother died of a drug overdose when he was 15. He turned me into a dead junkie so he wouldn't have to explain why his mama smelled like hotel bleach instead of perfume. But here's the thing about mothers who clean up after other people for a living. We know where the dirt gets hidden. And when I finally found what my son had buried, I didn't just dig it up. I brought it straight to the one place he'd never expect, the black tie gala, where 300 of Chicago's wealthiest people were about to honor him as Architect of the Year. What happened when a dead woman walked into that ballroom carrying a suitcase full of truth? Well, let me just say my son's acceptance speech didn't go the way he'd rehearsed it. Before I tell you how I turned my son's proudest night into the moment he had to face everything he'd been running from, I need you to do something for me. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. And hit that like button if you've ever given someone everything you had and watched them pretend you never existed. Because by the end of this story, you'll understand why showing up uninvited was the only way I could remind my son that you can build skyscrapers all day long, but you can't build a real life on a foundation of lies. To understand how my boy could stand in front of a mirror every morning knowing his mother was alive and still tell people she was dead, you need to know what our life looked like before ambition turned his heart into something I couldn't recognize. Picture a small shotgun house on the south side of Memphis, 3 rooms in a row like train cars, where a mother and son made a kingdom out of nothing. Derek's father was a truck driver named Samuel, who promised me the world and then drove off into it when Derek was 4 years old. No child support, no forwarding address, just a note on the kitchen counter that said, "I'm sorry, Ruth. I ain't built for this." So there I was, 28 years old with a GED, and a little boy who kept asking when Daddy was coming home. I got the job at the Peabody because my cousin Loretta worked in the laundry department and put in a good word. $12.50 an hour to start, cleaning rooms that cost more per night than I made in a week. But the benefits were decent. The schedule was steady, and they let me pick shifts that matched Derek's school hours. Every morning I'd walk him to Cummings Elementary, kiss his forehead, and tell him the same thing. "You're going to be somebody, baby. Mama's making sure of it." Then I'd catch the bus downtown, put on my uniform, and spend 8 hours making beds for strangers who never looked me in the eye. Derek was brilliant. Not just smart, I mean the kind of brilliant that made teachers call me in for meetings just to tell me how special he was. "Mrs. Carter, your son built a scale model of the Memphis Pyramid out of popsicle sticks for the science fair. The engineering is remarkable for a 10-year-old. He was always building things. Cardboard cities on our kitchen floor. Bridges made from toothpicks that could hold a dictionary. He'd sit at the table sketching buildings while I ironed my uniform for the next day, and he'd hold up his drawings with those big brown eyes shining. "Mama, look, I designed a house for us. It's got 4 bedrooms and a porch that wraps all the way around. That's beautiful, baby. You keep drawing. Someday you'll build it for real." Weekends I picked up extra shifts. Holidays too, because the hotel paid time and a half for Christmas and New Year's, and that extra money meant Derek could have new shoes for school and art supplies that weren't from the dollar store. I missed his 6th grade awards ceremony because I was cleaning the presidential suite for some country music singer. I cried in the supply closet that night, but the overtime check paid for his summer architecture camp at the University of Memphis. High school was where everything accelerated. Derek got into the magnet program at White Station, which meant an hour bus ride each way but access to AP classes and college prep that our neighborhood school couldn't offer. I'd wake up at 4:30 every morning to pack his lunch and drive him to the bus stop because the first pickup was in an area I didn't want him walking through in the dark. "Mama, you don't have to drive me, I can walk." "Boy, I've been getting up early your whole life. Another 30 minutes won't kill me." He graduated valedictorian. When he walked across that stage, I screamed so loud the principal looked over and smiled. That was the proudest moment of my life, or so I thought. Because every proud moment after that came with a shadow I didn't notice growing. The scholarship to Illinois Institute of Technology covered tuition, but not living expenses. So I took out a loan against the house my grandmother had left me, the only real asset I'd ever owned, to cover his room and board. 4 years of architecture school. I sent him $300 a month, money I saved by eating ramen for dinner and skipping my blood pressure medication when the refills got too expensive. He'd call every Sunday, excited about his projects, his professors, the city that was becoming his new home. "Mama, Chicago is incredible. The buildings here, you wouldn't believe it. I'm learning from people who designed some of the most famous structures in the world. I'm so proud of you, baby. Every scrub toilet was worth it." Junior year, the calls changed. "Mom, I met someone. Her name is Victoria. Her father owns a development company. They build luxury condominiums all over the Gold Coast. Is she good to you?" "She's amazing. And Mom, her family, they're connected to every major firm in the city. This could change everything for my career. Just make sure she loves you for you, baby, not for what you can do for her family's business." "Of course, Mom." But the love you part started fading from our conversations after he met the Harrington family. Victoria's mother hosted dinner parties where people discussed European vacations and wine vintages. Victoria's father played golf with partners at firms that had 100-year histories. And my son, my brilliant boy from South Memphis, started learning a new language, not French or Italian. The language of pretending. The first sign was subtle. I mentioned I'd gotten a raise, $15 an hour after 18 years, and he changed the subject so fast I thought the call had dropped. When I talked about the funny guest who'd left a $100 tip and a note saying, "Ruth, you make this hotel feel like home," he went quiet. "Derek, you still there?" "Yeah, Mom. Listen, when you meet Victoria's family, maybe don't go into too much detail about the hotel stuff." "The hotel stuff? You mean my job?" "I just mean, they might not understand. It's a different world up here." Different world. Like the world I'd built for him brick by brick, dollar by dollar, sacrifice by sacrifice, was some kind of embarrassment that needed a warning label. But I let it go because mothers are built to absorb pain from their children and call it understanding. The visits stopped first. Every time I suggested coming to Chicago, there was a reason it wasn't a good time. Victoria's parents were in town. The apartment was being renovated. Work was crazy. Then the calls went from weekly to bi-weekly to monthly to whenever he needed something. "Mom, I need you to sign this refinance paperwork on the house. Interest rates are down and it'll lower your payments." "Mom, can you forward that box from my old room? There are some documents I need." "Mom, Victoria's family is throwing us an engagement party. I'll send you photos." Photos. Not an invitation. Photos. When I asked directly if I was coming to the wedding, the silence lasted so long I checked if my phone had died. "It's going to be small, Mom. Just close family." "I am close family. I'm your mother." "I know. Let me figure it out and get back to you." He never got back to me. The wedding invitation never came. I found out about the wedding date from a Facebook post by one of his college friends, congratulating Derek and Victoria on their upcoming October ceremony at the Four Seasons Chicago. 320 guests. Small, just close family. If you know what it feels like to be shut out by someone you built your whole life around, then you understand the kind of quiet devastation that doesn't come with screaming or crying. It comes with sitting in an empty house at 3 a.m, holding a photo album and wondering where you went wrong. But I didn't know the worst of it yet. Not even close. The discovery happened by accident, the way most buried truths eventually surface. My neighbor Gloria's daughter Tamika had moved to Chicago for nursing school, and she happened to attend a charity gala at the same hotel where Derek's firm was hosting a client dinner. "Miss Ruth, I saw Derek at this fancy event last weekend. He looked so handsome. But the strangest thing happened. Tamika's voice was careful on the phone, like she was handling something fragile. Someone asked him about his family, and he said both his parents passed away. He said his mother died of an overdose when he was 15, and he was raised in foster care." The room tilted. I grabbed the kitchen counter to keep from falling. He said, "What?" "I'm so sorry, Miss Ruth. I didn't know if I should tell you, but Mama said you deserve to know." I hung up and sat in the dark for 3 hours. My son hadn't just excluded me from his life. He'd murdered me in his story and made me a drug addict so people would feel sorry for him instead of asking questions about where he really came from. The boy I'd starved myself to feed had turned my sacrifice into a tragedy that made him look heroic. Poor Derek raised himself from nothing, overcame a terrible childhood. Self-made man, self-made. With my money, my house equity, my 18 years of overtime pay, the financial discoveries came next, each one worse than the last. A call from the county assessor's office. "Mrs. Carter, we're processing the lien release on your property. Can you confirm the second mortgage was paid in full?" "What second mortgage?" Someone had taken out a second mortgage on my house for $68,000 using a power of attorney I'd never signed. The notary stamp was from Cook County, Illinois. Chicago. Then the credit card bills started arriving. Not mine. Cards opened in my name at addresses I'd never lived at, all in the Chicago area. A MasterCard with a $14,000 balance, an American Express with $21,000, a store card at a furniture place on Oak Street with $9,000 in charges for Italian leather sofas and imported dining tables. I called the credit bureau with shaking hands. "Ma'am, we show 11 open accounts under your Social Security number. The oldest was opened 3 years ago." 3 years. He'd been stealing from me for 3 years, long before the wedding. Long before Victoria. He'd started using my identity practically the moment he decided I was dead to him. The worst discovery was medical. I'd been ignoring a persistent cough for months, too heartbroken to take care of myself properly. When I finally went to the doctor, they found spots on my lungs. "Mrs. Carter, we need to run more tests, but I want to prepare you. This could be serious. Stage 1, lung cancer. Caught early, treatable with surgery, but I'd be recovering alone because the son I'd sacrificed my health for had told the world I was already in the ground." That night, lying in my grandmother's house that was being stolen from under me, diagnosed with cancer my son didn't know about because he'd decided I was a dead junkie, something shifted inside me. The grief burned away and left behind something harder. Not hatred, clarity. If Derek wanted me dead, then I was going to come back to life in the most public, undeniable way possible, and I knew exactly where and when. His Architect of the Year ceremony was in 6 weeks. 300 guests at the Drake Hotel. Black tie. His biggest night. I started making phone calls. The next 6 weeks were the most deliberate of my entire life. Cancer growing in my chest, betrayal burning in my heart, and a plan forming in my head that my son never saw coming. First, I reached out to the people who knew the real story. My neighbor Gloria, who'd watched me leave for the hotel at 5:30 every morning for 20 years. "Ruth, I'll fly to Chicago with you. That boy needs a reality check." Mrs. Doris Washington, Derek's 5th grade teacher at Cummings Elementary. "I still have the Mother's Day essay he wrote about you, Ruth. My mom is the strongest person in the world. I kept it in my files because it was the most beautiful thing a student ever wrote." Pastor James from Riverside Baptist, who'd watched Derek grow up in the church youth group. "Dorothy, you say the word and I'll testify to the character of the finest mother in this congregation." My cousin Loretta from the Peabody laundry room, who'd covered my shifts when Derek had school plays. "Girl, I have pictures of you working doubles with a fever because that boy needed braces. Let's go." I gathered everything. 20 years of evidence. Photo albums from every birthday party in our little shotgun house, where we decorated with streamers from the dollar store, and I'd baked cakes from scratch because bakery cakes were too expensive. Report cards with teacher notes praising my involvement, church bulletins listing us side by side in the holiday programs, bank statements showing every monthly transfer to his college account, and the new evidence, credit reports, the forged power of attorney, the fraudulent mortgage documents, a paper trail of betrayal that even the best architect couldn't design his way out of. Getting into the gala was surprisingly easy. I called the Drake Hotel and said I was a family friend of the guest of honor who wanted to surprise him. The event coordinator was delighted to add 5 names to the list. "Oh, how wonderful. Mr. Carter is going to be so surprised." She had no idea. The hardest part was the Wednesday before the gala, when Derek called me for the first time in 4 months. "Hey Mom, just checking in. Everything good?" "Everything's fine, baby. Same old Memphis." "Good, good. Listen, I've got this big work thing this weekend, so I might be hard to reach." "That's okay. You go be great." "Thanks, Mom. Love you." Love you. 2 words that used to mean the world to me. Now they sounded like a lock clicking shut. What he didn't know was that while he was rehearsing his acceptance speech about overcoming adversity and building something from nothing, his dead mother was trying on a burgundy dress at Macy's and coordinating hotel rooms for the 5 witnesses who were about to turn his fairy tale into a documentary. The night of the gala, I stood in front of the bathroom mirror at the Palmer House, where my group was staying because there was no way we were staying at the same hotel as the event. I looked at myself, 64 years old, hands rough from decades of work, a surgical scar on my chest from the biopsy 2 weeks earlier, eyes tired but steady. "You look beautiful, Ruth." Gloria was behind me, zipping up her own dress. I look like exactly what I am. A hotel housekeeper from Memphis who raised a son that became too good for her. Tonight he's going to remember who made him. We arrived at the Drake at 7:15. The ballroom was magnificent, crystal chandeliers, white tablecloths, a stage with a podium, and a massive screen displaying photos of Derek's architectural projects. 300 people in tuxedos and gowns. The kind of room where I'd normally be invisible, just another service worker clearing plates and refreshing water glasses. Not tonight. The first person to recognize me was Victoria's mother, Catherine Harrington, a tall woman in a silver dress who'd apparently seen old photos Derek hadn't managed to destroy. She stopped mid-conversation, champagne glass frozen halfway to her lips, and went pale. You can't be." "Ruth Carter." I extended my hand with a smile I'd been practicing for 6 weeks. "Derek's mother, the one who died of a drug overdose? I'm feeling much better now." Catherine Harrington looked like she'd seen an actual ghost, Derek said. "He told us." "I know what he told you. That's actually why I'm here tonight, to clear up a few misunderstandings." She turned and practically ran toward the head table where the Harrington family was seated. I watched the whispers spread like dominoes falling. Victoria's face went white. Her father leaned in, his expression shifting from confusion to something darker. And then Derek saw me. He was standing near the stage, shaking hands with some silver-haired man in a designer suit, when his eyes swept the room and landed on me. I watched every emotion cross his face in about 3 seconds. Recognition, disbelief, horror. "Mama?" He mouthed the word more than spoke it. I waved, just a small wave, like I was greeting him across the kitchen table back in Memphis. He excused himself from his conversation and crossed the ballroom in what felt like slow motion. Every step closer, his face got tighter. "What are you doing here?" His voice was low, controlled, the voice of a man used to managing situations. "I came to see my son get an award. Isn't that what mothers do?" "You can't be here. You don't understand, these people think." "That I'm dead?" "Oh, I understand perfectly, baby. I've understood for quite some time now." Victoria appeared at his side, beautiful in emerald green, her eyes wide with something between fear and fury. "Derek, who is this woman?" "Victoria. Honey, I'm your mother-in-law. The dead one, Derek." Victoria's voice was ice. "You told me your mother died when you were 15. It's complicated. She's not well. She gets confused." "Confused?" Mrs. Washington stepped forward. She was 73 years old and had the posture of a woman who'd spent 40 years commanding classrooms. "I taught your husband in the 5th grade, young lady. And his mother volunteered in my classroom every single week, despite working full-time at the Peabody Hotel. There's nothing confused about Ruth Carter except maybe her confusion about how she raised a boy who could lie this deeply. The circle around us was growing. Guests had noticed the commotion. Phones were appearing. Derek, Victoria's father, Richard Harrington, approached with the controlled anger of a man who'd built an empire on trust and contracts. "Is this woman really your mother?" Derek's jaw tightened. "Sir, I can explain. Is she your mother?" A long, terrible pause. "Yes." The silence that followed was loud enough to hear from Memphis. "You told my family your parents were dead. You stood in my living room and accepted our condolences. Catherine cried for you." "Sir, my background. It's complicated. I didn't want. You didn't want us to know your mother cleans hotel rooms." Richard's voice could have cut glass. "That's what this is about?" I stepped forward. "Actually, there's more to it than that. Quite a bit more." I opened my bag and pulled out the manila folder I'd been carrying like a weapon for 6 weeks. "Your son-in-law hasn't just been lying about me. He's been stealing from me." The room went so quiet I could hear the ice melting in someone's cocktail. "These are credit reports showing 11 credit cards opened in my name over the past 3 years. Total balance, just over $52,000. And this is the forged power of attorney he used to take out a second mortgage on my house. $68,000. The house my grandmother left me, the only thing of value I've ever owned." Derek's face was gray. "Mom, please. Not here." "Then where, baby? Because you won't take my calls. You won't answer my letters. You told every person in this room that I died of a drug overdose. Where exactly was I supposed to bring this?" Pastor James spoke from behind me, his deep voice carrying the authority of 30 years in the pulpit. "I've known this family since Derek was baptized at Riverside Baptist. Ruth Carter is the most selfless woman in our congregation. She went without meals so this boy could eat. She worked holidays so he could have birthday presents, and she took out loans against her own home to pay for the education that led to every building on that screen behind you." He pointed to the stage where Derek's award-winning designs were still being projected. Beautiful buildings, stunning towers, all of them built on a lie. Gloria added her piece. "I lived next door to Ruth for 22 years. I watched her leave for work sick, exhausted, heartbroken after his father left. She never missed a day, not one. Because that boy needed her. And this," I pulled out one last document, "is the Mother's Day essay Derek wrote in the 5th grade. Mrs. Washington's voice was gentle but firm. I kept it because in 40 years of teaching, it was the most moving thing a student ever wrote about a parent. I can tell you from memory how it began. My mom works at a hotel making beds for people she'll never meet. She comes home tired, but she always smiles at me." Derek was standing perfectly still, like a building whose foundation had just cracked. Victoria was staring at her husband like she'd never seen him before. "You used your mother's identity. You stole from the woman who raised you." "Victoria, I was going to pay it all back. I just needed time." "Time? You told me she was dead, Derek." The event coordinator appeared, looking like she might actually cry. "The program is supposed to start in 5 minutes. The mayor's office representative is waiting to present the award." Everyone looked at Derek. He looked at me. "I think," I said calmly, "that before my son accepts any awards for building things, these folks should know what he tore down to get here." Richard Harrington took the microphone from the podium. "Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the disruption. There will be a brief delay while we address a family matter." But there was no addressing it. Not privately, not quietly. The truth had walked into that ballroom in a burgundy dress and sensible shoes, and it wasn't leaving until every lie had been accounted for. Victoria pulled off her wedding ring. "Right there, in front of 300 people, I married a man who doesn't exist. Victoria, please. Everything you told me. The foster care, growing up alone, building yourself from nothing. It was all a lie. Your mother is standing right here, alive." I was ashamed. Derek's voice cracked for the first time. "I was ashamed of where I came from." "You were ashamed of me," I said it quietly, but somehow my voice carried across that entire ballroom. "A woman who cleaned rooms so you could draw buildings. That's what shamed you." A woman I didn't know, someone from one of the tables near the back, stood up. I'd like to know if the firm was aware they were honoring a man who committed identity theft against his own mother. The managing partner of Derek's architecture firm, who'd been sitting at the head table looking increasingly horrified, rose. We were not. The next 30 minutes were the unraveling of everything my son had spent years constructing, more careful than any building, more intricate than any blueprint. His entire false identity, the orphan narrative, the self-made myth, the dead mother who conveniently couldn't contradict any of it, all of it came down in real time under the chandeliers of the Drake Hotel ballroom. Victoria left with her parents. The award was postponed indefinitely. Derek's managing partner asked him not to come into the office on Monday. I watched it all from a chair someone had brought me because my legs were tired and the cancer in my chest was making it hard to stand for long. Gloria held my hand. Loretta brought me water. Pastor James prayed quietly beside me. When the ballroom had mostly emptied, Derek walked over. His tuxedo was rumpled, his tie loosened, his eyes red. He looked smaller than I'd ever seen him. Smaller than the little boy who used to build cardboard cities on our kitchen floor. Mama, I'm sorry. I know you are, baby. I'll fix the credit. I'll fix the mortgage. All of it. That's a start. But that's just money and paper. What are you going to do about the rest of it? What do you mean? I mean the lie you've been living. The mother you killed off because she wasn't polished enough for your new life. How do you fix that? He didn't have an answer. I didn't expect one. I have cancer, Derek. Lung cancer. Found out 8 weeks ago. He sat down hard, like someone had knocked his legs out from under him. What? Stage 1. They caught it early. I'm having surgery next month, but you didn't know because you made sure you'd never have to know anything about my life again. He was crying now, big, ugly tears that stained his tuxedo shirt. Mama, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I know. But sorry is just a word, baby. It's what you build after sorry that matters, and you're an architect, so you should know that better than anyone. I stood up, straightened my dress, and looked at my son one last time that night. When you're ready to be my son again, the real one, not the one you invented, you know where to find me. Same little house in Memphis, same mama who loves you even when you don't deserve it. My group and I walked out of the Drake Hotel into the Chicago night air. My chest hurt. My heart hurt worse, but underneath all that pain was something I hadn't felt in years. My own respect for myself. 4 months after that night, I was in my garden pulling weeds when a rental car pulled up to the curb. Derek got out. He looked different, thinner, humbler. He was wearing jeans and a plain shirt. No designer labels, no expensive watch. Hey, Mama. Hey, baby. He stood at the gate like he needed permission to enter. Come on in. These weeds aren't going to pull themselves. He knelt in the dirt beside me, the boy who designed skyscrapers, on his knees in his mother's garden. I've been seeing a therapist, twice a week. That's good. She says I was running from shame my whole life. Shame about being poor, shame about Dad leaving, shame about needing help from anyone, especially you. And she says the running is what broke everything. Not where I came from, where I ran to. I kept pulling weeds. Let him talk. I paid off all the credit cards. The second mortgage is being reversed. I brought the paperwork for you to sign. Okay. And I wrote a letter. To Victoria's family, to my firm, to everyone, telling the truth. All of it. Who you are, what you did for me, what I did to you. I didn't leave anything out. I looked at him then. Really looked. And I saw it. Behind the shame and the exhaustion and the regret, I saw the little boy who used to hold up his drawings and say, Mama, look what I built. Your surgery. The one next month. Can I come? It's in Memphis, baby. Not Chicago. No fancy hotel attached. I know. Can I come? I'd like that. He reached over and pulled a weed that I'd been struggling with, roots and all. Mama? I'm never going to be ashamed of you again. I know, baby. Because now you know what it costs. We worked in that garden until the sun went down, mother and son, covered in dirt, rebuilding something that couldn't be drawn on any blueprint. Because the most important things we build in this life aren't made of steel and glass. They're made of truth, and truth is the only foundation that holds. Drop a comment if you've ever had to remind someone that where they come from is nothing to be ashamed of, and if this story hit you somewhere deep, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Because the people who truly love you will never ask you to disappear, so they can shine. Real love makes room, always.